everyone. So today I'm going to be talking about different types of installations that you could use in your van build and the different components that you need to factor in to see which is the best fit for you and your needs. And let's get into it. So a couple things I will be saying throughout this video are R value, NRC, and VOC. R value is a rating to determine how well a product insulates or how well it allows heat to travel through it. This takes into consideration radiation, conduction, and convection. NRC is a rating from 0 to 1 that determines how well a product sound dampens or absorbs sound. 1 is the best, 0 is the worst. 0 means it doesn't absorb any sound, 1 means that it absorbs 100% of the sound. And then VOC stands for volatile organic compounds. So this was me finding out if specific products released any off gases that are potentially harmful to you or released any compounds that were potentially harmful to you or the environment. So first we're going to talk about the 3M Thinsulate. It is made of polyester and polypropylene, I hope I'm saying that right, which means it's completely hydrophobic and doesn't absorb water or moisture, also makes it mildew and mold resistant. It has an R value of 5.2 per inch and it comes in 1-inch rolls or bats basically. And again, the R value determines how well a product insulates. It has an NRC of 0.91, which means it absorbs 91% of sound, which is actually really good for sound deadening and making sure that your sound stays inside and outside sound stays outside. I could only find it for $55 per 5 linear feet of this product. Here's a chart to determine based on your van how much you would need for your van build. You do have to purchase an additional adhesive in order to apply it. Now the adhesive, you need to wear a mask with it because it's not good to be inhaling any of those chemicals. It's not super great for the environment to be putting it out in the environment. And you will also need scissors for the installment of the installation. It's a tongue twister. It is cruelty-free or vegan as it says on their website, and there are no VOCs or gas emissions from this product, which is really good. But now we're moving on to Havelock Wool. So next we're talking about Havelock Wool, which I'm really excited to talk about because I'm using that in my van. Their website also has so much good information, so if you have more questions about it, go to their website. But Havelock Wool is made from real wool from sheep, and they make them into these 2-inch bats that are sprayed with a little bit of boric acid just to deter bugs from living in it. Boric acid is also natural and non-toxic, so it's okay to use. This wool is hygroscopic, so it absorbs moisture while the wool stays dry and then is able to release moisture back into the air so you don't have water pooling in your crevices in your van actually, which is cool. It also means that it is mold and mildew resistant, kind of like how sheep don't constantly have mold and mildew living on them. But that makes this wool a moisture manager, which is not common at all for insulation products. So the R value for Havelock Wool is actually 7 for the 2-inch bats that it comes in that you'll be using in your van build. You won't be splitting those in half. So it actually has a higher R value than Thinsulate, and I'm comparing the two because those are the most common types that people use. Has an NRC value of 0.9, meaning it absorbs 90% of sound, which again, you want it to absorb a lot of sound because you live in a metal box. It's super environmentally friendly because it's coming from sheep. They don't use any chemicals except for the boric acid, which again is non-toxic. It doesn't release any VOCs at all. Sheep's wool actually absorbs and filters out formaldehyde and these other 2 chemicals that I'm not going to say because I don't know how to pronounce, but these are the 3 main chemical compounds that sheep's wool actually air filters. So you get a little air filter in your van. Who can disagree with that? So the wool is actually $150 per box. Here's a chart to show how much that would actually come out to be and how much you would need for your specific van build. The 3rd box is actually $120, so you get a little bit of a discount on that 3rd box. But the install is actually pretty easy. It can get a little messy with just wool fibers kind of flying everywhere, so wear a mask so you're not inhaling that. But all you really need are scissors and string, which I'll show you in 2 weeks when I install it. But moving on. So next we're talking about Rockwool. Now Rockwool is actually made from melted down basalt or basalt, however you want to say it, and steel that they spindle into fiber. So it's like fiberglass, but it's actually fiber rock, I want to say. I don't know. But it's hydrophobic, so completely resistant to water, which also means that it's mildew and mold resistant as well. The R value for Rockwool is 3.3 for 1 inch, and that goes up if you add more inches to the thickness of that Rockwool. I could only find it being purchased in 3-inch bats, so its R value would be around 10 in those 3-inch bats. Each of those bags of Rockwool were around $72. So make sure you calculate out how much that would be based on how much a product it gives you and how much you would need to use for your van build. Now, Rockwool has no VOCs, it doesn't have any off gas, nothing like that, and it has not been found to be carcinogenic like fiberglass can be. But do wear protection while you're installing it. I think that you can install it the same way you would install Havelock Wool, so you would probably just need strings and some scissors or a really heavy duty razor to get through how thick it might be. But next is the rigid boards. So there are 2 types of boards. You have XPS and polyiso. XPS tends to be more reliable, but I'll get into that in a second. XPS has an R value of 10 for 2-inch thick boards. For 2-inch thick boards, they tend to be $58 per board. Again, check the measurements, see how much you would need in your van build, then calculate how much that would cost, see if that's affordable for you. Polyiso has an R value of 11, but that substantially decreases in cold weather. So if you're cold chasing, don't use this. But it comes out to $39 for 1-inch boards. That's all I could find close to me at my Home Depot and my Lowe's was 1-inch boards. If you have 2-inch boards, find out how much that is, and again, calculate that out. So these 2 boards have an NRC of 0.59 out of 1, which means that it only absorbs 59% of sound, which that's not good for living in a metal box. It's pretty easy to install. All you need is a razor and some adhesive, and it just pops right on. The only con to installing it is that this is not a malleable board, so you will have weird gaps if you're applying it on the walls or on your curved ceiling. The only place I've really seen people applying this is on their floors, so this is an option for your floors if you want it. But there are no VOCs, there's no off gas, so that is a plus. So now we're talking about spray foam, which is made of man-made chemicals that can be really harmful to the environment and to you while you're applying it. So I don't recommend using it, but I'll go over everything anyways. It is completely water resistant, hydrophobic, doesn't create mold or mildew, which can be nice. It has an R value of 6 per inch, and I believe you apply multiple inches of spray foam in your van. But again, when you're installing this, you have to be really careful not to spray on too much, otherwise it warps your van panels. And there are mechanics who won't fix van panels that have been spray foamed before, so you also want to keep that in consideration. The NRC for spray foam is 0.7, so it only absorbs like 70% of sound, so it's an okay sound deadening or sound absorbing insulator. Now, it can be expensive. It's $700 to DIY it, average, but it's $1,300 to get it professionally installed as an average. And again, spray foam releases VOCs while it's heated up. It also releases chemicals while it's being applied. So you have to take that into consideration if you want to be breathing in VOCs in like warm weather. It is so tough to remove this stuff, so you also want to be careful of that. And lastly, fiberglass, which is the cheapest option. You can get a $22 roll for 32 feet, and it has an R value of 13 for 3.5 inches, which is pretty good insulation, and that's typically what's used in houses anyways. But you have to be really careful when you're working with this stuff, because it has been shown through multiple studies that it's carcinogenic. If you inhale it, it has caused cancer in lungs before. So you have to be super protective, wear your face mask, wear gloves. It can get stuck in your clothes, so you have to be really careful when you're washing clothes. Wash only those clothes. Yeah, you just have to be very protective and careful when you're working with fiberglass, and I wanted to put that as a disclaimer. But its NRC rating is 0.9, which is actually really good. Again, really good sound absorption. So fiberglass is water resistant, but if it ends up getting wet, it decreases the R value substantially. And if you're living in a van where you're going to be in any humid climates, or you're afraid that there might be a leak somewhere from roof racks, solar panels, anything like that, I don't suggest this. And lastly, with fiberglass, when it heats up, it does release VOCs and hazardous pollutants. So that is also another reason I do not recommend fiberglass. Thank you all so much for watching, and all those who are supporting me. I really appreciate it. I hope this was helpful to anyone who watched it, anyone who's questioning what installation to use, anyone who didn't even know the terminology. I hope this just helped in general. And in 2 weeks, I get to show you my insulation, sound deadening, and rust oxide stuff. So that's really exciting. So stick around, and thank you so much.